Lesson 3 for July 13 through to 19, Sabbath, a Day of Freedom, read by Dr. Percy Harold. Friday, July 19. From the book The Desire of Ages, page 206 and 207, we read, Jesus stated to them that the work of relieving the afflicted was in harmony with the Sabbath law. It was in harmony with the work of God's angels, who are ever descending and ascending between heaven and earth to minister to suffering humanity. And man also has a work to perform on this day. The necessities of life must be attended to, the sick must be cared for, the wants of the needy must be supplied. He will not be held guiltless who neglects to relieve suffering on the Sabbath. God's holy rest day was made for man, and acts of mercy are in perfect harmony with its intent. God does not desire his creatures to suffer an hour's pain that may be relieved upon the Sabbath or any other day. And that brings us to our 4 discussion questions for this week. 1. In what ways have you experienced the Sabbath as a demonstration of your trust in God? Have you had a manna-like experience in your life where God has provided in response to your trust in him? If so, share it with the class and tell them what you have learned. 2. As we've seen in the 4th commandment, as found in Exodus chapter 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5, God emphasized different aspects of Sabbath. What is the one aspect of Sabbath that you most appreciate? Let's just refresh there. Exodus 20, verses 8 to 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work. You, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and hallowed it. And Deuteronomy 5, verses 12 to 15. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there by the mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. 3. In class or individually, brainstorm some ways you can share the blessings and benefits of the Sabbath in your community. 4. What are some of the ways the Sabbath changes your life? Are there other parts of your life in which the patterns and principles of the Sabbath should have a greater impact? And to summarize this week's lesson, God gave the Sabbath as a way of remembering creation and redemption, but it also has many practical benefits. It teaches us to trust in God's provision for us, it teaches us to practice equality, and it can become a spiritual discipline that can transform all our relationships. Jesus demonstrated his ideal for the Sabbath by healing the sick and emphasizing the Sabbath as a day to benefit those in need. Inside Story. Our mission story this week is titled Snakebite Transforms Village, and it's by Wilson Miasapogo. Sundareo, a 27-year-old farm worker, was intrigued when a white man showed up at his Indian village and read about a creator god from a black book on Saturdays. Sundar was attracted to U.S. missionary Theodore R. Flaser's Bible stories and decided to follow his God. Sundar's employer was furious when he didn't go to the field the first Sabbath. His anger grew as Sundar kept refusing to work on Saturdays. At home, Sundar angered his relatives by no longer participating in family religious festivals, including the worship of Naga, a snake god. After a time, Sunda sought peace by building a house just beyond the brook that marked the village's border. Soon he got married and had a daughter. One day, when Sunda was 29, his employer asked him to work on a Saturday. "After your worship ends on Saturday, come and help count bales of hay," he demanded. Sunda reluctantly obeyed. He arrived at the field after sunset, but before darkness had set in. With help from others, he counted the bales. Noticing a small bale off to one side, he kicked it toward a larger bale. In a split second, a young cobra sprang from the bale, struck him on the leg, and fled. No medical help was available, and Sunda knew he would die soon. The villagers had no doubt that Nagar was punishing him. "Nagar is very angry at you," one said. "It's because you disobeyed all the village gods," said another. Sunda started to sweat. Formerly estranged family members gathered around him and wept. The village waited for him to close his eyes and die. But nothing happened. A snakebite specialist was summoned to check his leg. He was astounded at what he found. He declared that the cobra had struck Sunda with the top of his mouth, not with the poisonous fangs, and had fled in fright without trying to bite a second time. The next day, the villagers were amazed to see that Sunda was healthy and happy. "The protection of the white man's God has saved him from the cobra bite," they said. From that moment, in 1957, many villagers joined Sunda in keeping the Sabbath. 5 years after the snake bite, I was born to Sunda. Today, Gudam Madhavaram is an Adventist village. It has produced 40 pastors and Bible workers and many educators and health professionals. On Saturdays, the whole village stops to worship the Creator God. This is the power of God, who turned a snake bite into a blessing. And Wilson Miasapogu is Executive Secretary of the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Southern Asia Division, whose territory includes India. His father died in 2017 at the age of 77. You have been listening to a reading of the Adult Sabbath School Bible Study Guide by Dr. Percy Harold from Queensland, Australia. This service is brought to you by Hope Channel, the Sabbath School Department, and Christian Services for the Blind. Remember, God is always faithful.